Good morning, this is Robin Bieber on the Crude Spread Talk on the 1st of May at 8:05 in the morning London time. And the charts in front of us are WTI front end, and this is the June-July WTI. And what this is suggesting at the moment is that firstly, it's a little bit too far above the 5-day moving average, so I wouldn't be surprised to see a little bit of a dip back. It's had the most perfect slingshot move from the 5 and 8 to the 13, from the 13 to the 21, and yesterday over the 21 and to the 34 and over there, which suggests a clawback still of value to around minus 208, the 55-day moving average. I would expect it to run up to here, and that is a target valid whilst above minus 325. The 5-day gap is a little bit wide, which is not a good thing. It's over $1, which on a spread is too much. So don't be surprised by a little bit of a cutback. And if we look at the 60-minute chart on the June-July, you can see it's looking a little bit toppy. And that actually this validates the 5-day gap being too wide. So don't expect it to rally too much early this morning. I would expect it to cut back and test support, at least the three. I would expect it to test around minus 325 during the course of the morning, or it could easily do that. In other words, I'm expecting a dip, although still the backdrop is a target to 208. And on the July Aug WTI, perfect move, 5 and 8 to the 13s where it closed. It's over the 13 at minus 256, suggesting a move to minus 224, which it's nearly, well, it's done virtually with a high of minus 227. If it can get over 224, the next target is 2 and then 178. Nice positive stochastic with bullish divergence, suggesting more upside yet. It must hold above minus 256, but the 5-day gap is far too wide, over 50 cents. And I would expect us to correct back a little bit this morning. And if one looks at the 60-minute chart on this spread, you can see that the stochastic is toppy, and actually it validates the view that we're probably likely to dip back. And there's bullish divergence on both these front ends, and it is beginning to play out on the June-July, but far from played out on the July-August. And if we look at a bit of back-end structure, the deck June is faltering a little bit. It's back and testing the 5 and 8s, which isn't great. It's still got a positive stochastic, but it must hold above the 352 5-day moving average level. Otherwise, by the afternoon, otherwise it's going to falter a little bit. Also, the back end here, the 60-minute chart is suggesting some weakness, so be careful. Below the 5-day, and if it stayed below there this evening on the close, this would not be great for the deck June. As I say, the 60-minute chart is suggesting some downside initially this morning, and only a move and close over the minus 301 level, the 13-day, would give it some serious upside, but it must hold the 5 and 8s, particularly the 5 at 352, otherwise it's going to falter more. The deck red deck on WTI it's holding the 8-day at 542, which is pretty much where it is at the moment. It must not move and close below the 5-day at minus 559, otherwise it's going to struggle. It may be in for a little bit of a struggle. It's got a positive stochastic, which is good, but the 60-minute chart is suggesting some weakness this morning, so we may find the 5-day under some serious pressure later. I would expect a 10-20 cent dip. Now moving over to Brent structure and the July Aug. Bullish divergence, not played out yet, so I'd expect it to move up to around minus 156, and this is valid. This target higher is valid whilst it stays over 190, which is the 34-day moving average. 5-day gap is a little bit wide, so don't be surprised by a dip back this morning. And indeed, if we look at the 60-minute chart on the July Aug, it's suggesting some weakness initially. So although I think we'll probably push higher, don't be at all surprised by a little bit of a dip this morning. And on the Aug SAP, it's run up to and hit its target at minus 143 area, the 34-day moving average. It's done well, a perfect move from the 5 up to the 34 yesterday. Now it needs to get above 143 to have a target to 118. This 34-day is going to be trouble for it, so be careful. It suggests that it could easily dip back. The 5-day gap is a little bit wide, so don't be surprised by a dip back towards it. It's still got a nice bullishly diverging positive stochastic, and if we look at the 60-minute chart on this spread, no indications of early weakness today, so there's some strength in that Aug SEP, and this would be manifested if we could get over minus 143. And looking at some of the back end structure on Brent, the deck June, It's failed at the 13-day at minus 320. This was a perfect slingshot move higher, not dissimilar to the flat price yesterday. No targets higher unless it can get over 319. Then the bullish gloves would be off and it would run on higher to 287 and then maybe even higher to 260s area. It must hold the 5 and 8s that come in today around minus 359. Providing they hold, nothing wrong with it. But a move back below 359 would not be great. Also, the 60-minute chart over here on the left is suggesting some weakness this morning. So I would expect the 5 and 8s to potentially come under pressure this morning. They must hold by later this afternoon. And so there's going to be a little bit of early pressure. The deck downside pressure, that is. The deck red deck needs to move and close over the 13-day at minus 520 to have a target higher up to around the minus 446. It's faltering a little bit. It must get over this 13-day, and at the same time it must not close below the 5-day at minus 591. That may well come under pressure today early on, as the 60-minute chart to the left here is suggesting a little bit of weakness. That's all for today, folks. Good luck, good trading, and bon appetit.